Okay, now I know this is taking a while, so anyway. Let's see. Now, back with the rest of the wrestling pay-per-views. Now, April didn't really do anything, but later in like '99 they did one called Backlash, which I don't think they do that much anymore. I don't think they do. They just got too many pay-per-views now, but back in the day they really did not. And it was rated PG back in the time as well, and it was entertaining as well. You know, all the wrestlers, and of course The Undertaker, which I have to mention. I can't even believe that I did not, as he debuted in the WWF in 1990 at the Survivor Series, and probably one of the most memorable wrestlers in the business. Yep. And of course, many others too. Let's see here. Now, for the rest of them, now, I never went to a pay-per-view event, but I did, like I said, go to a event once before, which was Monday Night Raw, and that was the show, of course, in the 90s, like from '93. And the theme song was great as well. Yeah, lots of good stuff, you know. You know, entertainment was great as well, and of course you had Shawn Michaels, and you had Kane, who was known as Isaac Yankem DDS, a dentist guy. Then he became Kane in 1997. Let's see here. And then, of course, later in the years when we got to 1996, came this guy who probably became one of the most popular superstars in the 90s. He was known to us as the Ringmaster. Then at the 1996 King of the Ring, he won it and delivered his famous speech of Austin 3:16. That, of course, would be known to us as This guy would be known to us as Stone Cold Steve Austin. When he gave his speech and he said, "You get all your Bibles, your John 3:16, and all that," he says, Austin 3:16 says, "I just whipped your ass," as he beat Jake the Snake Roberts and became the King of the Ring, and that pretty much how it began. So, there you go. And of course, another guy would debut in 1996 at the Survivor Series, and he was another popular superstar in the late 90s, though, but mostly in the early 2000s he was, and he, of course, is known to us as The Rock. He was known as Rocky Maivia when he debuted. And I remember seeing the pay-per-view as well, Survivor Series 96, and when he debuted on there, you know, he did pretty much a great job, and he wound up getting the win for the team with the shoulder breaker, a move that he did, and of course the signature move he's known for was the rock bottom. Yeah. But just to make this a long story short, now the WWF was one of my favorites growing up, and then when we got to the later years, I would record like every pay-per-view that they had, and pay-per-views be like $30 to order. Now they're pretty much like $45 or $40, anything like that. Overpriced as hell. And same thing at WrestleMania, you know, with that thing being that much money, it's ridiculous. It really is. But that was one of my favorites in the 90s, and of course the toys for them, I collected a lot of them. I had one called the Titantron stage, which was where you put your wrestling figure on the stand and they come out to their theme song or anything like that. And what was I gonna say? I mean, I'm getting a message from somebody on here, and I'm losing track a little bit. I'm sorry. Just okay. So I record like every pay-per-view they had, like January, which is Royal Rumble. February was No Way Out. March was WrestleMania, or early April, or whatever, be WrestleMania, and April be Backlash. May would be Judgment Day. June would be King of the Ring. July would be Fully Loaded. Then was Change to Vengeance. August would be SummerSlam. September would be Unforgiven. October would be No Mercy. November would be Survivor Series. And December would be Armageddon. That is all of the pay-per-views that were pretty much the best. But even though they were after the 90s, this was actually 2000 when they had those pay-per-view names. And when they had that, it was awesome. It really was. Okay, but you know, for 90s wrestling as well, and they did have, of course, WWF Superstars, another show that aired on Saturday morning, I think, and they also had one called Live Wire, which I think was 90s, or maybe not, maybe that was okay, sorry, just having a message, okay, what was I going to say, keep losing track. I don't know about Live Wire. Maybe that was like early 2000s or something. But and of course, like the wrestling, you know, all the wrestlers, they were great in the 90s, and then later years it would get entertaining as well. But then I forgot to mention this, when we got to like 1998, we also had the Attitude Era with all the superstars featuring The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Kane, Vince McMahon, and many others, and like the feud with Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Austin McMahon War, anything like that, which was pretty much entertaining to people. I remember this incident when Vince McMahon was in the hospital and Stone Cold has this bedpan and hits Mr. McMahon over the head with it. It was hilarious. I mean, because who doesn't enjoy seeing that, somebody kick their boss's ass? I mean, that was hilarious. How much time do we... Okay. Just gotta check the time. Excuse me. Okay. What was I gonna say? So anyway, well, yeah, the Attitude Era was also awesome as well, and yeah, the Attitude Era was definitely a lot of people's favorites, but for me, it has to be the early 90s, you know, with The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan, and Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, many other things as well. But I do like the Attitude Era. I did grow up on it as well. But I just pretty much like what they call the Golden Era or whatever. But now, if they could bring back the Attitude Era, it would be awesome. So now let's move on to more stuff. Let's move on to some of the movies of the 1990s. Jim Carrey, you know, who is still a great actor and did so many great movies in the 90s. You got Dumb and Dumber, a story with him and Jeff Daniels as Harry and Lloyd, two guys that are going through their state all the way to Aspen to bring back a briefcase to Mary Swanson. Hilarious movie, and if you have not seen Dumb and Dumber, please see it. You also got Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, which he did, and he did a sequel called Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. I didn't really see the second one, but I did a little bit, but the first one was better, in my opinion. Um, let's see, let me see, yeah, and you also have The Mask, another movie that Jim Carrey did, which was also hilarious, too. He plays a guy named Stanley Ipkiss, a guy who works at a bank and finds this green mask and becomes this green mask character all over his head and stuff, and when he's introduced and he's circling around and he stops and he goes, "Smoking." That's the best imitation I can do of that. Some people think I do it pretty well. But it's a hilarious movie as well. It's hilarious just like Dumb and Dumber. I'm not saying like which one is better or anything, because they both are good. But if you haven't seen any of them, please see them. And if you haven't seen them, you're not a 90s kid. But if you're born in the 70s as well, and you have seen it, then you're still a 90s kid too. Yeah, so now let's go back to music a little bit. I think we should probably go back to that a little bit. There was also the arrival of these two groups, NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. Now, I'm just going to be honest, I did listen to both of them, and occasionally I still do, but I probably listen to the Backstreet Boys more. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but their music was good, like the one song, As Long As You Love Me. That was a good song. I mean, I'm not a gay guy, I am 100% straight, I love women, and I mean, their music just was good, you know. But I think they're still on tour, though. But they're As Long As You Love Me, then you got Everybody, Backstreet's Back. I had one of their CDs. And another song they did called The Shape of My Heart. I think it was from another, I can't remember the name of the album. That one was good, too. But Everybody, Backstreet's Back, and As Long As You Love Me, and I Want It That Way. Another great song that they did. What else do we have? Well, we're done with that. So with NSYNC, now they only had a few ones, but the biggest one they're known for is Bye 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 from their album No Strings Attached. I know it's the biggest one that they've done, but it is good to listen to and sing to as well, and dance to. But you know, it's kind of gets a little bit old, but it is still good. And you also have another one they did, which was, I think, what is it called? It's Gonna Be Me, which was also from No Strings Attached, I believe, and that's pretty much it. Then you have what else? Let me think. They also had another one which was called Celebrity, I think, which had just one song there called Pop, or Dirty Pop. And then they broke up, and Justin Timberlake, who was one of their members, wound up leaving them and doing his own solo career, which he's doing a great job with. You know, he did one called Sexy Back, which is good, and Suit and Tie, which is also pretty good. I mean, if you don't find it entertaining, whatever, I don't know why. But, yeah. Now, for more 90s music, now, I'm a big Kiss fan. Now, they're from the 70s and stuff, and they were pretty popular in the 80s. But for the 90s, they had their members and stuff, but they would reunite with the original members, you know, Peter, Chris, and Ace Frehley in like 1996 for their reunion tour. And they did release an album called Psycho Circus. It was in the late 90s, like 98. I like that album because I like Psycho Circus on it, Within, I Pledge Allegiance to the State of Rock and Roll, Into the Void, We Are One, and You Wanted the Best. There's 6 songs on there, and I like them. And then, of course, like later in the years, Peter Criss would leave them again, and Ace Frehley would later, and they are still together, but they just have different members. Now, what else do we have? I know this video is going on for a while, but I know I'm just giving my best opinion. Now, there's also things in there like we had these things called baby bottle pops, if you remember them. I used to have one of them. You take the lid off the bottle, put it into the sugar, shake it up, and put it back on, and then suck it. Yeah. But that was pretty good. Hang on a second. I'm just getting messages on my phone now. Hang on. Taking a picture of myself or somebody. Hang on. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Alright, now, where did I go? Where did I leave off? I lost track again. Yeah, baby bottle pops, they were good. Then you had ring pops. You put them on your finger or whatever, and you just would like lick them or anything like that, and they're sweet. Yeah. Now for other toys as well. Now, well, when I was growing up, I had stuff like, God. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Okay, let me see. Now, for toys that I had, when I was growing up, I know I did have a lot. I had, I collected like a lot of emergency stuff, like fire trucks. I used to collect them. Or little tiny ones, the 164 ones, little tiny ones, like, police cars, ambulances, fire trucks, a little bit of helicopters and stuff, or them remote control fire trucks that I had some of them as well. You just press a button on them and it plays a siren or anything like that. Yeah, but also for the music, I know I'm messing up. Michael Jackson, how can you forget him? With his performances as well, and of course History, one that they did as well. The Spice Girls, who are a group. I mean, I saw them on the TV show, all of that, and I'm like, God. But let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about video games. Yes. Now, as much of a big fan of video games that I am, well, of course, Nintendo was the first one, like in the 80s. I didn't have Atari. That was one of the first ones. I had Nintendo. I did have Sega Genesis, which I still do have games as well. I had games like California Games, Sports Talk Baseball. I think I had Family Feud, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Yeah, the Power Rangers. PGA Tour Golf, which is something my uncle had, but I decided to keep it. And of course, baseball games. I think I had the American Gladiators, the Crash Test Dummies, a few others. I had a lot because I loved Sega Genesis. Of course, WWF Raw and Royal Rumble and WrestleMania the arcade game. But like I said, I didn't get Super Nintendo till like 2001, I think, or 2. And I had it like for a little bit, but I have a Retron 3 system which plays Super Nintendo, Sega, and Nintendo games. It's pretty much alright. But I do have a Sega Genesis system, a 16-bit one. Then of course, like the other games, like, and of course the Ninja Turtles, who were really popular in the 90s, like their movies. First one, second one, and third one. They were always fun. Then came Nintendo 64, one of the biggest systems of the 90s. I remember getting it for Christmas once before, and I was like, it's Nintendo 64! As I couldn't believe it really was a Nintendo 64. They cost like, I think over $200 or something like that in that time. Same thing with the Super Nintendo and Sega. I think they cost that much. But right now they only cost like maybe $30 to get one. Maybe. But that was a lot of money in that time. And of course the wrestling figures, I collected them a lot as well. And then later in the years, like 2001 I think, or 99, I started collecting the Titantron figures. And I had a bunch of them, and I still do. But some of them I don't have, as I unfortunately got mad and ripped their heads off. And unfortunately I didn't mean to do that, but I regret myself for doing that. Had like Vincent Mann, a few others as well. But just disappointed, that I did that. I had a wrestling ring. I had a monster ring, which was of Monday Night Raw. I don't have it anymore, and I wish I still did. I do have a ring, though, but it's put away in my closet somewhere, so it doesn't get messed up or ruined very much. Let me see. Then, of course, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They were one of the best in the 90s. Their TV show, and then they had a movie that came out as well. I only cared for the first season, the second season. When they added Rocky, Adam, and Aisha in season 3, that pretty much made it stink. It really did. But when they had Jason and Zach and Trini and Billy and Kimberly, it was good and stuff. They were the original 5, and then came the new member, Tommy. Tommy, the evil Green Ranger, who started in season 1 with the popular series, in my opinion, Green with Evil. I remember that. I do own them on VHS as well, because they're awesome, and I don't have them on DVD. But that was one of the most memorable, Green with Evil. Then, of course, they defeat him, and he winds up being a member of the Power Rangers. Yeah. Now, back to, like, the toys and stuff, like, I said about the wrestling figures, and, of course, Toy Story, one of the biggest movies for Disney, which I absolutely love, and I also had a couple of them. I had Woody and Buzz. I still do have a Buzz, but it's a USA American flag one, which is pretty cool of him. Let me see here. Yeah, just trying to think of something to say about, but I know I'm going on and on with this. See how much we're up to. Well, we'll probably squeeze in a little bit more, so. But like I said, the 90s were really fun. The TV shows, the music, the games and stuff, and many other things. Yeah. Had like, yeah, I'm trying to think of like something good. Let me see here. Like, all the toys that I said, and the video games as well, then. Nintendo 64, I had that for a while, and one of them that I really wanted to have was one of them wrestling games and stuff, but I didn't really get them until like the later years, and pretty much that's it. And, of course, like, let's see here. And also, let's talk about the game shows. I'm sorry, I forgot about them. Alright, this will probably be the last one, the game shows. You had the biggest game shows of the 90s. The Price is Right. Family Feud. Well, in the early 90s and stuff. It kind of like went off after 93, I want to say, or whatever year it was. Then you got Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy. Another one which is really good, Supermarket Sweep, hosted by David Ruprecht, where you're in a grocery store and you take all this stuff and put it in your cart and try and get all the most that you can, to total up and like go for $5,000 at the end of it, which is pretty fun. Then the show that came after it, this was called Debt, D-E-B-T. It was hosted by Wink Martindale, a guy who also hosted Tic-Tac-Doe, Gambit, and High Rollers, I think. Did a very good job with his shows as well, but Debt, it didn't really last that long, I think. And Supermarket Sweep, was great, and then also there was another one that came after that, and that was Shop Till You Drop. And of course that was great as well, but I didn't really understand it a whole lot, but it was a fun show as well. And as for The Price is Right, now I'm going to say this, when I was going to school in the 1990s, I didn't really care about going to school at all. Well, in the later years I did, like 97 or 98, because I don't mean to say this to people, but I have to admit it because it's the truth. I was bullied. I was bullied every day at school. I really was. Because I would go to school, I would show up late sometimes. Like, school would start at 8 a.m., I think, or 9 a.m., something like that. I can't really remember the time. I would go to school, and I was bullied, like, in the 4th grade. It was, well, a little bit I was. The 5th grade and 6th grade, I was pretty much bullied, and I was about 10 when that happened. That was 97 and 98. I mean, my teacher that I had, she was adorable and stuff. I really liked her. My 6th grade teacher was great as well. My 4th grade teacher was a man. My 3rd grade teacher, kids were telling me that she called me a crybaby because I was crying in school because we had a power outage because of a storm. I mean, there's no law that says you can't cry and stuff, but I was a pretty emotional person. I kind of still am. Yeah. But I was really bullied. I would go to lunch and I would stand up against the wall. Nobody would play with me, like play tag or dodgeball, jump rope, nothing. I would just sit and I would just stand up against the wall and just watch them. The only time that they would come to me and talk with me or anything is unless I brought in stuff like any of my cool toys, like my Power Rangers or wrestling figures, anything like that. But that's pretty much all I did. And kids would always, of course, make fun of me and stuff just because of the way I looked and stuff. And, yeah. But I didn't really like it. I really did not. But, what was I saying? Now, when I would not go to school, I would pretend to play sick. I would be like at home and be like, oh, I'm not feeling good, my stomach hurts or anything like that. My mom did not like it at all because she wanted me to go to school badly because, she wants me to learn. And I did, a lot of things that I did there, and I learned a good amount. And when we got to like the later years of 98 and 99, I just pretty much wanted to stay home from school and just not be there because I didn't want to be bullied. I didn't tell them, that was the reason why, but they pretty much know why I missed school. But I would stay home and I would watch The Price is Right every time at 11 a.m. on Channel 13. And I grew up in a very rough neighborhood as well in the 1990s, and we finally moved to a better neighborhood in 2003. Yeah, but the neighborhood I grew up in the 90s was very rough. It really was. Well, in the beginning it was not all that bad, but then when we got to like the later years, like 98 and 99, it just got a little bit bad. And I also had a PlayStation, just from, say, in the 1990s, so there you go. Now, also, I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I would stay home and just watch The Price is Right. I really would. I just couldn't stand couldn't stand being bullied. I really couldn't. But I enjoyed going to school. I did, like in 96 and 97. I liked gym, because that was always one of my favorites. And then my music class was alright, like we'd sing a song. And then we do like God Bless America, I think, or the Star Spangled Banner. And of course, art was really not one of my favorites. And of course, our field trips and stuff, like we took a field trip once to Her's Chip Factory, which was fun, about how to make chips from the company Her's. Took a trip to the aquarium, I believe, and I think we went to the Baltimore Zoo one time. Not sure though. Trying to think what else. I know I'm going off my school days and stuff, but I'm just telling you, that's pretty much what I did. Let's see. That's just pretty much everything that I did. I did not enjoy going to school because I hated getting bullied. And there you go. I'll probably talk about something a little bit more, and then this will probably do it. Let's see how much time we have. Alright. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. It really is. Let's see. Another thing I'm going to say, I'm trying to think. Well, as for like the video games and stuff, like they had like some pretty cool Super Nintendo games as well, like Family Feud and Power Rangers, the wrestling games as well, and Nintendo 64, like Wheel of Fortune, WrestleMania 2000, but even though that was later, and No Mercy, and that was later too. A couple others as well. And for Nintendo as well, I forgot to mention, I had, of course, a Super Mario Bros. Featuring Duck Hunt. I also had Tecmo Bowl, which is a football game, which I still have along with Super Mario Brothers. Lunar Pool, a game that one of my mother's ex-boyfriends played, which I still have. Of course, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all three of them, the original, the arcade game, and the Manhattan Project, and also another one, arcade, video game arcades. You know, I went to a bunch of them back in my day. This place called East Point Mall had a really good one. It's really downhill now, the place is. It's crazy and stuff. But they had a really good video game arcade. They had, of course, one of the biggest games in the 90s, well, late 90s, I guess, Tekken. You know, Tekken Tag Tournament, Tekken 1, Tekken 2. Also for PlayStation, they had them as well. A couple of NBA Jam games, I think. NBA Jam is pretty much was the best. And, of course, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. And, of course, you had Chuck E. Cheese going to there and playing the arcade, playing the games and stuff. Like Skee Ball, or the Simpsons arcade game, which I played once there. And their basketball game, like shoot some basketballs into a hoop. Uh-huh. Okay, I'm just reading something here. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And also watching the entertainment of Chucky and his pals, like singing Happy Birthday to you, anything like that. But as for video game arcades, you know, they still have some at this place called Ocean City, and some of them are pretty fun. Like they got crane games, you know, claw machine games, and they got skee ball, pinball, of course. I wasn't really that much big of a fan of pinball that much, just because I played like it only ones that, like, you know, are pretty cool. Like it was something to do with a TV show or anything else like that, basically. But they were pretty fun as well. But at Ocean City, they have some pretty fun ones, and of course, like bumper cars as well, a few others too. And of course, for sports, can't forget these. I always loved baseball when I was a kid. I loved playing on a sandlot field in my old neighborhood where I used to play. That was always fun for me. I always liked to play with my grandfather and my aunt and my mother occasionally. That was always fun, what I liked to do. And, of course, like the Baltimore Orioles, because they're my favorite baseball team. They last won the World Series in 1983, and they finished first place in 1997. And they finished first place this year as well for the first time since 97. And 96 had a great year, and of course in 1995, Cal Ripken Jr. would tie and surpass the immortal Lou Gehrig for consecutive games played by tying him on September 5th, 1995, of 2,130 consecutive games played. Then, September 6, 1995, sets the record at 2,131 consecutive games played, a record they said that would never be broken, and it was. Amazingly, but, you know, it was a great moment, too. I remember seeing it on TV as well. On the old channel, used to air on, called HTS, Home Team Sports. They used to play on Channel 2, actually, WMAR, which is the thing for Baltimore. Or ABC, if you want to call it, but it's called WMAR in my area. And I did play basketball as well. I used to play on some basketball courts as well. Wasn't really into football that much. And of course, the Baltimore Ravens would become a football team in 1996 after the Cleveland Browns would be relocated from Cleveland to Baltimore. Then they would become a team later again in 2002, I think, or 3, by former owner Art Modell. Yep. And, let's see. Probably just do a little bit more, then this will probably do it, because we're up to a whole lot. I already said the music, let's see. And of course, like the restaurants and stuff, like for the fast food chains and stuff. Now, I don't mean to say this, but I loved McDonald's when I was growing up. I mean, I hate to admit it and stuff, but I mean, I always did love going there. I loved their French fries, their hamburgers. I didn't really get the Big Mac. I would get a Happy Meal sometimes. Their salads were good, like their chef salad they used to have. I always loved them. And of course, their little playland they used to have. You play like in the little ball area, or go down their little slide or anything like that. Remember them? Always loved doing that. And of course their toys, like they had some from the Batman movie, like Batman Forever or anything like that, I think they had, and the Power Rangers, and many others. But yeah, that was pretty fun as well. And of course Burger King as well, but I didn't really care for them that much. And Wendy's, when they had Dave Thomas, when they aired those old commercials with him, which are always entertaining to watch, and it just made the food look good and stuff, you know. But now pretty much nobody gives a care anymore about McDonald's. I don't either. Or, well, Burger King's alright still, and Wendy's is alright still. And of course Taco Bell from the 90s and stuff, which are still pretty good. Yeah, and many others too. But that's just something, you know, I just want to share, as I always liked that, but not so much anymore. Yep. Let's see, maybe think of one more thing, or maybe we'll cut this. But as I said, you know, for wrestling, I love WWF and WCW and ECW, and the game shows as well that I mentioned, and Family Feud, which was hosted by Ray Combs in the early 90s as well. And when they had the Bullseye round, which is pretty fun. Yeah, so, and Jeopardy, of course, with their set as well. Then later in the 90s, like 97 or 96, I think it was 97, or maybe it was 96, when they had the Sushi Bar set. A few others as well, just to mention. But yeah, they were always fun, but there you go. Well, that'll have to do it for this video, so that's going to do it for this discussion of this long video. My talk about the 90s. I know this went on, but I hope you all enjoyed this. So like, comment, and subscribe, please, and give your opinions on 1990s. And the question is, for this, if you are a 90s kid, what's your favorite moment or thing you loved in the 1990s? Yep, that's the question. So there you go. So that's it for this video every day in October. Thank you all for watching. Enjoy, like, comment, subscribe. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And I will see you all with more videos. You all take care.